Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
St. Louis Public Radio's The Gateway gives you the day's news first thing every weekday morning. From the ever-evolving relationship between St. Louis City and County to developments in the Missouri and Illinois state capitals and reports from our correspondents in Rolla and the Metro East. We put it all in a roughly 10-minute package with clarity and context. Download The Gateway wherever you get podcasts.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
You know, Tennessee Williams moved to St. Louis in 1918, and this was a time of terrible pandemic. Do you ever think about that symmetry of his move here, this production here?
He came out of his apartment and I almost gasped. He looked like Tennessee in his later years. And I say, Paul, come join us every night.
Come be the ghost of Tennessee Williams. I love that idea.
But can you imagine?
I'm Sarah Fensky. The Glass Menagerie has been performed all around the world, but never before has it been mounted on the grounds of the St. Louis apartment building that helped to inspire it. That changes next week. On August 19th, the Tennessee Williams Festival St. Louis opens its new production of the Glass Menagerie at 4633 Westminster Place. Playwright Tennessee Williams lived in an apartment on site for 4 years, and he incorporated details of the building into the home of the fictional Wingfield family. It truly is an only in St. Louis production. And joining us today to explain how it came together is Carrie Hauk. She's the Executive Artistic Director of the Tennessee Williams Festival St. Louis. Carrie, welcome back.
Thank you for having us, Sarah.
And we're also joined today by Brian Holfeld. He's the director of this new production of the Glass Menagerie. Brian, welcome.
Thanks for asking us. Good to be here.
So, Carrie, the idea of staging the Glass Menagerie on the site where Tennessee Williams lived, this is an inspired idea, but it also seems incredibly complicated. What put this idea in your head?
I've known of the building for years. It's a site on our bus tour, walking tour, but even prior to the festival, I knew of its existence, and I thought how cool that would be. I love site-specific theater anyway, and we're so lucky that we have this building still standing. And, I'd look at the parking lot and the fire escapes, and I'd imagine it. Boy, even going back to when I did Stairs to the Roof before our festival. In fact, I wanted to do Stairs to the Roof at the International Shoe Company, but that didn't work out.
Another site that this play draws
upon. There's so many, I know. So with the pandemic and the restrictions that we have producing theater this summer, and there are many with a professional cast, I thought, well, if not now, when? So I met with a team of designers and technicians and a support group who could help make us, help this come to fruition. We've done site-specific theater before, but it was more like run and gone without, professional lighting, sound, etc. But this, I wanted to be a fully realized production on this site. So I got in touch with May Young, who owns the building. She did not know me from Adam, and luckily for us, she loved our idea. She loves Tennessee Williams and bought the building in order to save the building. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's called the Tennessee.
Yeah, she certainly pays homage to this famous former resident, but she currently leases out many of these units as Airbnbs. This seems like this could put a little crimp in her business plan to have a full stage production here. I mean, Brian, are you kind of dodging Airbnb residents coming in and out?
No, fortunately, we are the B&B residents. The cast and myself are occupying a couple of the apartments, and they're beautiful. So it's kind of like, fortunately, we are rehearsing at the Chase, so it's not like it's always work and play. It will be next week at the same place, but Yeah, it's like nothing else I've ever done. So
you're ensconced now
Yes.
in this building. And I want to mention, before we talk a little bit more about this play, Carrie, what's so interesting to me is in addition to all the Airbnbs on site, I understand there's one permanent tenant who lives on site. Is he being incorporated into this production?
I want him to be, and maybe it's just my lunacy at the moment, but his name is Paul, and he's a professor, I believe, at WashU, and he lives there permanently. And when we were scouting, he came out of his apartment, and I almost gasped. He looked like Tennessee in his later years. And I say, Paul, come join us every night.
Come be the ghost of Tennessee Williams. I love that idea.
But can you imagine the actors, especially our actor Bradley Tejeda, who's playing Tom, being in this building where the Williams lived, and that is just such a part of, not just the Glass Menagerie, but a lot of his work. St. Louis influenced so much of it in many different ways and in many different pieces, just not only the plays, but short stories and essays as well.
So, Brian, this is his memory play, and there's some actual memories of this playwright living on site. How does being on that same grounds kind of shape your vision for telling this story?
The big thing was the fire escapes. I mean, we were using the actual fire escapes as part of the set, and we know that somewhere on this fire escape he stood and he smoked and he looked at the moon and he heard the dance hall and all the things that are mentioned in the play. So it's when you stop to think about it, it's a little overwhelming and a little humbling. But we don't have time to think about it. So,
so you're moving forward. So I want to get into a bit about this production. What is so interesting is this is the same cast almost as the cast you guys had last year when you did a radio play of this same play. So now the team is back together, but there's one big change. Who's the change on this, Carrie?
Our gentleman caller, Shawnery Kingsford, has a gig until the end of the year, and he was able to come in and do our radio production last fall. But he's been replaced by Chauncey Thomas, who many of you may know. He doesn't live in St. Louis anymore. He's a New York actor, but he was here for a time, and he's done a lot of St. Louis production. And the cool thing is Chauncey played the gentleman caller in the John Guare play we produced last fall called You Lied to Me About Centralia, which is a continuation of that evening. And it's adapted from a Tennessee Williams short story called Portrait of a Girl in Glass. So we already had Chauncey as Jim O'Connor, and now we're just popping him in to the Glass Menagerie.
So he understands this role. He's ready to go, which is important because you are doing this all on a very tight production timeline.
Yes.
Tell us how this is going to all work or is working.
We have about 2.5 weeks of rehearsal before opening, and a few of those are tech nights, which are kind of not, so. But we had the advantage of the actors having already done the radio version, so they came in knowing their characters, familiar enough with the script that they could learn their lines pretty quickly. The challenge is, for me, that production was aimed solely for the ear, and this, where they're physicalizing everything. So it's in that sense, it's almost like a new project. But on the other hand, they're already so into the characters that it allows us to go deeper now that we're on our feet.
I love that idea, but I find myself wondering, you'd hire a certain sort of actor to do a voice part. You might hire a different person to embody the role. Have there been any complications with that?
No, because I think when we decided on the radio cast, it was the people we would have used on stage. So we kind of went backwards because even then we were kind of planning to do it in the fall when we thought things were going to be okay.
So you reverse engineered the radio play.
Exactly, yes.
Yes, because at that time, if everyone remembers, we thought that the pandemic would be over a lot sooner than
don't remind us. Yeah. So that makes some sense. So this was your dream cast for the actual play. Now you have 3/4 of them back, plus a perfect fourth.
And they're a family. I mean, totally convincing, even at this early point in rehearsal. They've remained friends, and they rebonded very rapidly when they all came back together.
So you're doing this outdoors, and as you say, a full production. This is not just on the fly. There's lights. No. Does that add some special challenges? You're in the elements.
Oh, yes. Yeah, in fact, when we first discussed this, I was kind of against doing it outside just because I know how much there is out of your control. ambient noise in the neighborhood, and it never really gets dark. There's always ambient light. It doesn't get dark until 8:15.
Cicadas.
Cicadas, which are,
very noisy this year.
Yes, so we don't have to get sound effects for those
Right,
at least. But so yes, that adds yet another level of challenge. But we're up to it. I think the team is really good.
Really
the
good.
set is beautiful. The Dunsey Dye.
Dunsey Dye designed the set, and we have all of our designers are just at the top of their game, and that's why we are able to put this together so rapidly. I mean, that parking lot takeover happened on August 1st, and man, we've created a world back there.
And now as the Delta variant is surging, this is actually really good that you're
Thank
outdoors.
goodness.
I mean, this is kind of the one silver lining here is people are looking for outdoor theater productions to come to. I also find myself wondering, though, Tennessee Williams moved to St. Louis in 1918. And this was a time of terrible pandemic. Do you ever think about that symmetry of his move here, this production here?
I did not think of that, but that's a great observation. Write up something and send it to us.
Oh, there you go. Okay, here's my vision for this production.
And my constant battle doing this festival is that St. Louisans say, well, he hated it here. But the thing is, this was a different St. Louis then than it is now. And even though we are in the middle of a pandemic, I think we're dealing with it very somewhat successfully and with our chins up and full steam ahead. So,
and as you say, he did hate St. Louis. We've talked about that a bit on the show, even just a couple weeks ago with Henry Schmay. But Carrie, you've made a point of just how important not just St. Louis, but also the Central West End was to his life and artistic development. Tell us just a bit about that, since this is happening in the Central West End.
Yes, on the corner of Westminster and Taylor, which is a block away from our venue, Tennessee worked with a theater group called the Mummers and became a part. He became their writer, really. And they were a group of sort of beatniks of the time. And he wrote about them in a beautiful essay that we're actually incorporating in our tribute evening called Something Wild. And, they were offbeat, and he found his people with the Mummers. And the building there, again, it's another historic Tennessee Williams site. That's a beautiful theater that is now called the Link Auditorium, and it's being renovated. He would swim at the natatorium around the corner, which was called the Lorelei. And apparently we found out it was also an acting school, so we don't know if he had any roots there as well. He went to the field school on the corner. All of these sites are going to be incorporated on the walking tour. We usually have a bus tour, but the pandemic has intervened, so this year we'll just walk it.
And so if people want to explore these sites, it's not just where this play is going down.
Right.
You're visiting a number of his old haunts.
Yes, and you feel his energy, I think, within the neighborhood.
And Brian, do you feel that as you're there rehearsing with the cast? We joked earlier about the ghost of Tennessee Williams, but this was his old stomping grounds.
Yes, and it's I've tried to bring a little bit of that into the production, just as kind of the idea of the ghosts, the past, because it is a memory play as well. It is all about ghosts, basically. So I have thought about that. It's daunting, as I said, when you stop to think about it. But I've tried to get some of that in.
So this is the Glass Menagerie that opens August 19th. It's the Tennessee Williams Festival, St. Louis. You can get ticket info at twstl.org. Carrie, this is such a weird time, as I mentioned, Delta variant surging, a lot of people freaking out and canceling plans. How have ticket sales been for this?
Ticket sales, especially for the Glass Menagerie, are really, really healthy. Again, I want everyone to understand that it is outside. We did the Missouri Art Safe certification, and we will do our utmost to keep everyone safe. The seats are socially distanced. They'll be highly sanitized. We'll have masks at the gate. We cannot produce a paper program. We usually do a gorgeous catalog. It will all be online, and we may have people order them if they like on our website. Most of our events are outside. Our other play, You Lied to Me About Centralia, will be performed on the same stage. Our panels will be at the link, but again, we'll ensure it's a 500-seat house, that everyone is very distanced. Anyone with a ticket to the Glass Menagerie gets a $5 discount on all of the very reasonably priced other events. Gerard Kraft is opening his new restaurant around the corner, Beauwood by Niche. It will not be open to the public, but will be open to a Glass Menagerie ticket holder.
Oh, that's an exciting little perk
Yes,
there.
and when you buy your Glass Menagerie ticket at MetroTix, they will send you a follow-up email with information on how to order those dinners.
So that's exciting. It sounds like a lot of safety protocols here.
Yes.
Brian, this kind of comes down then to like one question. Are you anxiously checking the weather forecasts?
Yes.
And
yes,
how are things
yes.
looking?
Good.
It's actually going to be a little bit cooler next week.
We move into the set on Friday.
This
It's
coming
cooler by
Friday?
then.
Wow.
Mhm.
Holy cow.
Yeah, in a few days.
Time is
In a few
flying.
days. But no, I think we've had so much rain. And quite frankly, I don't want Brian and everybody else, as the producer, I'm the one
You will
who's
worry
checking.
about the weather forecast. Well, we hope for your sake there's not going to be rain.
Yeah,
and
we've built in 2 rain dates, though, in between our 2 long weekend runs on a Tuesday and Wednesday. And quite frankly, if tickets accelerate at the rate they are going now, I think I might add those in as performances anyway. So.
Well, that is, if you're listening to this and you're
Yeah.
curious to see this production, get those
Yeah.
tickets. That's twstl.org. Carrie Hauk, Executive Artistic Director of the Tennessee Williams Festival, St. Louis. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much.
And Director Brian Holfeld, thank you.
Thank you.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.